Katoa, rumihia na kia koutou, tutawa mai runga, tutawa mai raro, tutawa mai roto, tutawa mai waho, kia taua te mauri tū, te mauri ora ki te katoa, mie, tae ki e. Thank you and welcome everybody to the Finance and Performance Committee meeting 25th of October 2023. Thank you very much to Councillors Koro Matua Sam, Tumu Whakahaere, Sharon, councillors that are... Sorry, yeah, 3 councillors attending via live stream. They are Councillor Glidden, Councillor Hassan, and I believe Councillor Miller. They will be attending via live stream and be able to ask questions however they can make themselves known, because I can't see them on the screen. So there being no apologies, moving on to the next, identification of extraordinary business. Is anybody? I've been amazed. Oh, hang on, tripped out. There being none, moving on to the next, conflicts of interest. Nothing, thank you. No public forum this afternoon. We'll move on to the confirmation of minutes from our last tweet. I'm happy to move those. Seconder, Councillor, seconder Councillor Lyle, and then a question from our...
No, it's a correction that I was not present for the meeting, so I can't move or second the meeting at the minutes, but I'm listed as having been there.
Yep.
So
moved myself, seconded Councillor Lyle, and then noted the amendment for Councillor Miller that Councillor McInnes that she was not there. Any other corridor from the public minutes from our last week? Nothing. The move and seconder, those in favour say aye. Those against, there being none, moved. Actions from the public meeting. Sorry, I'm just flicking through this. I'm way off. Oh, excuse me, I'm just trying to find them now. Actions public is here on page 10. Timeline on investment properties to be presented to the committee. From the 24th of May 23, the report date to be confirmed.
It'll be on a workshop agenda pre-Christmas, just working for the appropriate workshop to get it to.
So maybe if that report date's updated to reflect that. Yep, for Christmas. And there was a question during the public actions last time from perhaps Councillor Reid around sending out the existing investment portfolio or some correspondence around it, and I believe that was done.
It's all on, it's been sent, but it's all on Diligent.
Yep. Thank you. Next tab is committee terms of reference. Tēnā koe te rangatira te pau nai te rui hiki e Megan, tēnā koe. Very grateful this adoption and to have mana whenua represented here in this committee and any other committees that we have. It's certainly, in the short time that you've been here, Megan, it's certainly improved and complemented our council. Most certainly, in my own personal view, from our bus trip to the corridor that we've had and to what you've brought to this table and to this whare, really appreciative of the effort this council's made to strengthen their te tiriti partnerships, but also mana whenua karuhi ki te kanuhi. So kia ora. Don't need to adopt any of that, do we? Ka pai. Chairperson's report. It's my report on tab 6, page 20. Take it as read. I'm happy to move that. If anybody has any questions regarding my chairperson's report, I seek a seconder. Koramatua Sam, seconder. Those in favour say aye. Those against, there being none, moved. I will just add that I wanted to commend our staff for the work that they do on public holidays while we all get to enjoy fabulous facilities like the Selwyn Aquatic Centre with my children. I'm very appreciative of the staff, the lifeguards and all of our people in those facilities. So thank you. Moving on to tab 7, the Executive Director Enabling Services Report. Kia ora, Kelvin.
Good afternoon all. Just cover a couple of quick matters here before we move on to the broader agenda. So one decision to come up today, and that's around a variation to a small lease. Update on the Health Hub and the process around expressions of interest, which we're running jointly with Te Whare Ora. The expression of interest window is closed. We've got 3 interested parties, all very credible. We're now moving into a new stage on this, where we'll be looking to seek further information from each of the interested parties and move through a process to eventually let to a health provider. Just a couple of other matters we're still working through with Avexius on extending their operations, and also looking at collection of bloods and others also. So good progress there, and we'll end up with a fully tenanted building. Hoirata Hall and the transfer there. The process is still, these legal matters do take time, and we're moving through the reserve land revocation. Everything's on track. We have had to extend this slightly just to get the legal piece of the matter, but we've got no issues there and progressing. We'll talk to a little bit more detail later in the meeting around LTP, but just a snapshot there of the engagement that we've had through the early engagement with the community. This is 2.5 times the size of the last LTP's early engagement, so we've gained a lot of insight, and in the workshop after this meeting there'll be some further insight around that. And there's just an update there on some of the strategic activity going on. So we'll just take questions if there is any.
Councillors? Megan.
I just have one question, and it's to bring myself up to speed. So it's on page 23, referring to the strategy that's about broadening the revenue streams for non-rate payer revenue. As part of that strategy, will it also talk about ownership models of investments? Okay, great.
Yeah, well, it'll be a full investment strategy and process around co-investment as well as straight council investment. So how do we partner with others? Yeah.
Kia ora.
I have a question when I can.
Sorry, I've just hit someone online. Oh, Phil. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, sorry, Kelvin, it was just a quick one. Those LTP return engagement figures are fantastic. Is there been, I know this is not strictly finance, it's more about the representation review, but they've also involved the representation review too, haven't they? And I think that's probably worth noticing that it's a really good match.
Sorry, Phil, can you just hold it there? We're just going to turn your volume up. I can't hear. I think unless somebody else did hear that.
I think I got the gist of the question, Phil, so just correct me if you're wrong. But the insight that has been gathered from the early engagement through the Charrettes and Huriana and another surveys has provided some insight around what you're looking for around representation review. So we'll be sharing the full detail of that with that committee to make sure they've got everything they need.
I think that's fantastic. I just wanted to recognise that what a great dual purpose that consultation was.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Phil. Thanks very much. I appreciate your question. Councillors, are there any more questions? If not, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Mover, Councillor Lyle, and second, Councillor Bob Mugford. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Those against, there being none, so moved. Next report. Finance and Performance Report, tab 8.
Thank you, Megan. Alison was going to be here to present this, but unfortunately she is at the dentist and while it might have been funny watching her try to speak, I'll take the reins. This is the August report. If we look at the key numbers here, we're running at a slight surplus ahead of budget of 0.3. And capital expenditure is sitting running about 10 million short of where we anticipated would be at this point in time. And that's a sort of a traditional trend in terms of how that ramps up in the latter part. Looking at our processing of limbs, back on top of where we were, we had some issues earlier in the year around staff and being able to deliver that. So that's back closer to where it needs to be. And building consents down a wee bit around where our anticipated target is. Attendance at our facilities is all tracking well to where it should be on the budget or the target compared with the full year. And likewise, the performance indicators around our services look good. Looking at our income, we are 1.47 million below where we'd anticipated at this point in time. This a large piece of this sits with subsidies and grants, and within that is the Waka Kotahi subsidies we receive for road maintenance and investment. And this is just more than likely a timing issue on where we are, given the timing of getting submission claims in around various events and the timing of projects running. Operating expenditures slightly below budget, which is good at this point in time, but we are still seeing impacts in the transport line, and the flood event from July having a little bit of an impact upon that spend. We will be able to recover some of that from Waka Kotahi. Moving to the balance sheet, not a lot to report here. Cash and cash equivalents have decreased marginally from last month, and our borrowings are up. Down 10 million. We're at up 10 million. We're at 125.2. In terms of KPIs, we have one here on the first page sitting in red. While it's in red at the moment, it's not of significant concern for us. We'll recover and get back to where it needs to be. And then on the next page, slight variations in the dog control area are again not of concern, and resource consents and building consents where they've been in recent times in terms of that trend. Road safety, regardless of where that measure sits, we always hold that at an amber, because it's never good enough where it sits until it gets to a near nil. So happy to take questions on the financials.
Councillors, questions? Councillor Miller.
The net debt position of 125.2, what was the budgeted number we were going to hit? Because we're CapEx spend is behind. What were we supposed to be at this month? Do you know off the top of your head?
Good question. So that's the gross debt position, but it's not too far away from the net debt position. Just getting to the right page. Given its start of the year, I haven't got the comparative there in front of me, but I can grab that. But it will be lower by tens of million at this point, given the timing of spend. But I'll come back with the correct number.
So whilst we're essentially saving on finance costs, we've got a big lump of expenditure coming up that's going to flow through.
Potential, yes, yeah.
So we carry those costs. I'm used to seeing as sort of current and non-current finance exposures. It's all just carried through in the P&L just as finance costs, so we don't divide it up into current debt payment and term.
What it is, that is our current. That is the cost
portion of it.
Yeah, that's the cost August to date.
You carry the non-current in your balance sheet.
We don't accrue the future interest costs. They arise when they arise.
Would we be?
No.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grant. Sharon.
Thank you. Just to highlight to councillors that ELT Kelvin and his team are committed to moving towards real-time reporting. And what I mean by real-time is that as we get towards the end of the year, say hopefully in November, we'll actually be reporting September and October's results in terms of the time lag. And that's part of the commitment around looking at our systems and processes that underpin how we do financial reporting. So just want to flag that. And also, as we hit January and moving forward, that we start to forecast our year end out, which is usually good practice within businesses too. So Kelvin and his team are looking to change things up a little bit and bring to you as near real-time reporting as possible.
Thank you, Sharon. Sam?
Yeah, my question's on that point, that just the second paragraph and says the format of this report will change. Is that just the timeliness, or is there some other changes to what will be presented to councillors moving forward?
There will be changes to what's being reported for various reasons. It's year-to-date reporting that comes up, which is really not that useful. So it'll be back to a month-to-date piece, or depending on the frequency of these meetings, which are not that frequent, it may be that it's a quarter that we're looking at a time. We'll have to just assess that, but also looking at more variance analysis in this that is more meaningful as opposed to at a higher level. So getting into more driver-based reporting as opposed to where we are currently. We're over budget by 10 million. Actually, 10 million is 10 million. What is the number that's driving, or the thing that's driving that to get to that point?
Thanks very much. Thank you very much, councillors, and thank you very much, Sharon, for the clarification on that comparative reporting. I appreciate the commitment to that. It's been a question that has been asked before. Kelvin, I just had a couple of questions. It's quite obvious to see the slowdown in development financial contributions coming, and it's obviously an indicator of slowdown economically in the market. On page 28, operating expenses, second line down, elected members remuneration, and I guess that's referring to the brevity of the adaptation or continuation of the report. That's a new line. It's good that it's there. Is there a reason behind it, or thought behind why it's there now?
Transparency.
Excellent. Fantastic. Appreciate that. Councillors, you received this part of the report. Can I have a mover and seconder for the finance performance report? Mover Sam and seconder Councillor Lyle. Sorry. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. There being none, carried. Thank you. Second report number 9, major projects report. Kelvin. Oh, sorry, Jenny. Good, Jenny. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
And your time.
Okay. First, I'd like to just sort of cover off the major projects, and then I'll move into the PIR. But we'll cover off major projects first, and then take any questions from that, and then I'll move into the PIR if that works. Great. Overall, I'll take the report as read for the major projects. Referring to our last conversation, this report was generated at the end of August. So, and that's for the reasons that were discussed. I'm conscious with this that there may have been updates received on some of these projects in the Transport and Infrastructure Committee. So I won't re-go over some of that, but Murray's here if I need some support in explaining what's going on with some of the detail. It has been a slower start than what we would have ideally liked, and this is predominantly due to the phasing and where we're at with our projects. I mean, I think you'll see in the main report, most of our projects are at that design and initiation phase. We've only got a few, especially of our major projects in delivery. There have been some that you'll be aware of that we've had some quite complex land acquisition and negotiations that we've been working with, and also in the process of finishing out the carry forwards from the previous financial year. From a performance perspective, this isn't unusual in terms of planning and delivery cycles, but it does present a challenge for us meeting our financial targets. And it's with those financial targets within a financial year, knowing that some of these projects will go over multiple years as well. So that's the sort of constraints that we're working in within that financial year. There's been a focus on rephasing the budgets, though our system is quite clever and really helpful. Unfortunately, it flatlined our budgets when we put that in. So we are in the process of looking at that baseline and making sure it's a little bit more accurate and that we've got a good base to manage performance from, a more accurate baseline. And I'm just conscious that this is the last Finance Performance Committee meeting for this year. We will continue to look to make improvements to this report. We'll be lifting it up, really looking at the performance of our project portfolio and our major projects moving forward. That's all I have. That's what I had on the major projects report.
PIR, Jen.
You go straight into it?
Yep.
Okay, sure. Okay. So I was hoping my colleagues would be here today. The PIR was conducted with three of us, myself, Roman Coulson, who's our project practice lead, and Craig Robinson, who's our project accountant. So for Te Aratia PIR, we conducted this over September and October. I'll just, first of all, just take you through what we do with PIRs, why we do them, and the sort of process that we go through. This is actually the third one that we've done. The previous ones, which we've done in Selwyn Sports Centre and the Health Hub, were presented back to Audit and Risk previously. What we do with a PIR, it's more of a deep dive into the project to sort of understanding how well the project achieved what it set out to do and the key learnings we can take from that experience and apply to future initiatives. So as we enter into these processes, we're going in with a growth mindset, not going in with that sort of blame culture or trying to go down that sort of route. So they're essentially help us understand what we're doing as an organisation, what we can do more of or better to be more successful in the future. We centralise the review process because it allows us to look at trends across our organisation. So not only will we do PIRs and lessons learned on projects in our infrastructure property space, we also do it across our other projects across the organisation. And this helps us get the key learnings where we need to strengthen our processes and frameworks. We will look to do around 3 major project PIRs a year. They're quite a big process to undertake. I've presented a draft schedule in the paper that you'll see. That may change depending on what project we do focus on, but those are the ones that we'll look to focus on in the upcoming years, next year, sorry. So the process we went through, we start with it's really interesting, it's cool. We get to do a desktop review and go and dig into all the artefacts and what the project produced. We then undertake a series of interviews, and the aim is to get a real 360-degree review and perspective of how the project performed from the different stakeholders involved. So that's both internal and external stakeholders. For Te Aratia, we had probably close to 30 people that we interviewed as part of that process. Then we go through the next process is really distilling down what we've found and just to find those big key rocks that are coming out from all the discussion and all the things that we're seeing in that desktop review. So we're looking for the big tickets and the things that will make the bigger difference. We don't lose any other learnings along the way. We still take those, but when we present back the PIRs, we're looking at the major themes. We then do some playbacks to people who have participated in the process just to test our findings. And then we go through the process of reporting that back up through management and governance. We design the process to be as transparent as possible. This is an open review. The only thing that we don't share is individual discussions. which is summarised up into the whole thing. So the context around Te Aratia, just for a bit of background on that. Look, I'd say in a nutshell, there was a huge amount going on in this organisation. At the time, we had 4 major builds on the go, of which Te Aratia was one of. And they were all quite unique. If you take the sports centre, the aquatic centre, and the health hub, they're all quite unique in terms of scales and complexity for what our organisation had dealt with in the past. It was also delivered over the COVID pandemic. And for us, Te Aratia was our first and potentially, I'd say potentially, only high-end building design. So it's a little bit flashier than maybe some of our other facilities. The project was part of a wider town centre development, and we're conscious of that, but for the purposes of review, we have just focused on that building and how that project went. So you would have seen the A3. There's a lot to try and get onto it, to a page on that. But if we really distill what the key findings are, overall, Te Aratia has delivered a great outcome for our community, and that was a very, very strong theme. Distinguishing itself as an arts, culture and lifelong learning centre for our community, delivering on its vision to be the heart of the district community and an anchor for the Rolleston Town Centre. We also have quite an iconic design, and it's been recognised and won industry awards. So financially, the project did perform slightly over budget. It was delivered on time, even with the COVID overtime due to the COVID lockdowns. Probably our biggest learning area for us to focus on was the level of scope change, which came with this project, which is higher than what you'd normally anticipate in these types of projects. What was uniquely successful around this project was the early and continuous engagement with mana whenua, the development of relationships, and the early integration of the cultural narrative that was quite unique for us as part of this, and it's really set the bar in terms of how we work with those partnerships moving forward. Our key areas to strengthen. So despite we've got a lot of positives that came out of Te Aratia, but it was a little bit of a bumpy ride to get in there. And the areas when we look at all the information, distill it down, where we can strengthen to help us be more effective moving forward is in our project governance and how we manage that, and making sure we have very clear roles and responsibilities and decision-making frameworks, and that these are established early and continuously. Our project frameworks, and one thing I'm quite delighted to report is working with the Infrastructure Property Group and with Ronwin in her role as project practice lead. We've been able to do a rapid stand-up of our project framework, so we're starting to get some consistency across what we do. These are not static things. We'll adjust and change these as we go, so we can look at, one, getting better quality outcomes, and two, making sure that they're fit for purpose and make life easier for staff to deliver. What we find with the frameworks is though they something that we work within is that consistency in practice over time really helps us put pace in delivery, because everyone knows what's expected of them. They know what the process is, they know what they need to fill out, and the templates and stuff work to help us facilitate those thinking processes and try not to miss anything as we develop our projects along the way. So some of the areas that we will be focusing in on is our project initiation documents, our risk management, and particularly with scope around change control. And the other area that we will be and have been focusing on is developing our capability. And that's around building our delivery team resources and capabilities to meet the demand of work programs. So making sure we have the right skills and right level of resourcing to be able to deliver these. For Te Aratia, we were quite lean on the ground when this was delivered, especially considering the other major builds that we had. And in comparison to the previous PIRs, actually it's probably not it's probably to be expected to a certain level that the findings were actually really very similar. So it's really focusing on our frameworks, getting our good governance in place. And that's the Te Aratia in a nutshell.
Kia ora, Jenny. Thank you very much for the report.
Question.
Very well done. Councillors, are there any questions on the Te Aratia post-implementation review, please? Yes, and also major projects as well. And we've sort of flew through that. So any questions pertaining to those? Councillor Miller?
I was interested in a number of things, but I thought I might just ask for a start. Was part of your brief to consider OPEX, how it's running now and the cost involved in running it? Because it's certainly, I think it's one of the deficiencies that we didn't probably identify when we were solely focused on build costs, not operational cost.
Yeah, actually, that's a good question, Grant. And yes, we did look at the operating budgets and how they're performing at the moment. So what they're actually they have been pretty accurate, but we have had some funding that's helped us support get up and going operationally in Te Aratia. So this year will be a good test of those of our budgeting processes.
The only comment I'd make to that, to add to it, is those operating budgets were set after construction. So because there was a void, as you said, we haven't looked at operating costs when we approve something, that we don't really know how well operating costs are what went to that point in time. So yes, we're hitting the current budgets, but this is where the methodology needs to change to looking at a total lifetime cost as opposed to how much is it going to cost me to build it. And probably adding to an element of that, if you're looking at the financials and the scope, to get to a budget that we did, to being close to budget, decisions were made around scope as we went along. And that is a constant we do see. So we've got to be better at budgeting to enable us not to cut the scope to get to a budget.
That's what I was interested, I suppose, in the scope part about it. You know, how far did you drill down about, you know, the scope change? You know, what drove it? You know, who or what initiated it? And you know, I suppose you talk about project governance. I suppose we're interested from. Well, I'm interested from my personal view. Was it a failure on us as a governance group here that we didn't provide clear enough direction or skills at the time? Is it in the delivery governance, or is it actually at this table governance?
It's delivery governance. There's probably an element of, so this is going back some time and we're learning from this, is one, did we provide the right information to you as governors to make you aware of what was happening? And two, which would then probably create the questions as governors that you'd ask and we'd expect to be asked. But there was a lot of decisions being made by the project team without full consultation with those that will be running the facility in the future. And so we've tidied that up, especially with what we're doing out at Leeston, where it's a real joint up approach to how we deliver projects, making sure that the actual owner is not the build team. The owner is Denise and her team who are going to be operating it. They are the true owner. They're just contracting for someone to deliver it. So we're making sure those connections are much greater to improve that.
There's a last question. There's a one line in there, but it says resulted in operational deficiencies. Are they material deficiencies that, you know, we look back and go, oh God, I wish we hadn't done that now?
That's a good question. I think sometimes you learn to manage within the situation that you have, but actually some of them, one or two of them, it would be better if we didn't make that change. Yeah.
I think there's one example which is probably meaningful, and that's around the collections team having to operate off-site from the library. That's challenging for them, so that does create an inefficiency. And the reason that decision was made is there had to be a building control room, and that's what was given up. Unfortunately, that's become an inefficiency.
Thank you, Grant. I've got Sharon next on the list.
Thank you for letting me jump in ahead of others. In answer to part answer to your question as well, Grant. One of the conversations we're now having for all projects going forward, whether it's builds, it's about what is the operating model that we have underpinning. And so that is a new mantra that we've brought into the organisation, is about, are we absolutely clear on the operating model? And so that is as important as any building design, is about actually understanding that operating model and what is the cost associated with that. And that's a new and different thinking that's been introduced. And it's really important that we know and understand that.
Thank you, Sharon. I've got Elizabeth.
Sharon, just to help me with my question, when you talk about the operating model, what does that encompass?
It can be wide ranging, but it is about whether it's, I don't know, say Te Ara Aotea, as part of what does that mean to the operating functions of the community services as a whole? What does that look like? How does Te Ara Aotea fit? How are we best utilising personnel within that operating model? Can we gain some efficiencies or different ways of doing things?
Okay. Yeah. So I just wanted to, sort of on the back of that, wanted to ask, has there been any opportunity for the community and those who are utilising Te Ara Aotea to come in and give some evaluation? I know the youth went through and did something a while back, but just the community as a whole, because we've received, obviously Shane and I have received from our local constituents ideas of things that they would like to see in Leeston in the new build, and wondering if we can make sure that what we learn every time we build something like this, what are the things that we could do better? I know on a personal note, I really struggle to get my skirts up when I use the toilet because they're really narrow in there. If anyone else has found that, very narrow toilets, but just little things like that, and hearing back from the community to make sure that that's a part of our our directions going forward.
I'll let Denise answer.
I guess from a operating point of view, we get annual feedback in the customer experience survey that tells us quite detailed feedback of what we're doing really well and what we're doing, what could be improved. Some of that's from a service perspective, but some of that's also from a facility perspective as well, and that's taken into account.
When does that come to us?
You would.
When have you received it? Has it already been done?
It's been done for this year, about 4 months ago. Yeah.
Thank you, Denise. Thanks very much, Elizabeth. Sophie?
Yeah, most of my questions have already been asked and answered, so that's pretty cool. One that I've got left was around if, or changed a wee bit, if there's potentially looking at operating models. I guess one question for me is Te Ara Aotea in some ways has quite overperformed in the number of people who visit every day and the amount of usage it's got. So I guess the question there is, if we set a target for OPEX for staffing and everything, would that possibly be reviewed in terms of, well, actually we've got an extra 50% number of people, so yes, the cost of staffing is going to go up.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the other question, I just had one wee comment about the A3, which was that wee bit, the performance summary in the middle. I just realised that the schedule and finances one, this is a really weird visual thing, in terms of the direction that those little lines go in terms of from what you want and what you don't want. And two of them are going in opposite directions to the others.
Okay, thank you.
It's just like, if you're looking at it, just as a glance.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Thank you for that.
Cheers.
Good, Sophie. Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, thanks. Your questions have been good because I've covered off some of the stuff I had as well. But I guess as we reflect back on the time when the project was set up, this is 2016, 17, 18, and we had a number of other big projects going on in the community as well. We had set up the project champions here that enabled councillors to be involved in different projects in the town centre itself, and that champions group went through a number of different iterations that was from a few councillors being assigned to it and then everyone feeling like actually the project's big enough that they wanted it to be back in here at with this group over it. So there's some history about the way that that was done. And I think the conversation on governance might be about project governance particularly, but I think that there's also ways that we as a governance group operated that through the time, some of it was helpful, but some of it was unhelpful as well. So there are some things for us to reflect on as we set up for projects moving forward that the team has learnt, and I gave that feedback to the interview I had to Jen and the team.
Kia ora, Sam. Thank you. Sharon?
Thank you, Shane. I want to say that it was a really good review, and I think what's important, and forgive me, Jenny, if you've already said this, but actually a lot of what you've identified as opportunities for change have been embraced, taken and already implemented, and have been implemented within the last few months, if not a little bit sooner. So please take it that it isn't that all we've identified things and we'll look to in the future. Actually, they're already put in place, which means then that future projects that are coming through as they're being shaped, already the learnings from Te Ara Aotearoa are applied. And I'm really heartened by how well the team have taken those opportunities for quality improvement on board, and should be acknowledged for that.
Kia ora, Sharon, and you summed up about what I was going to say. Really, how do we turn the post-implementation review into a pre-investment review, I guess, and taking all of the learnings over this period of time. Obviously, it's been a wonderful success for our community, and community feedback shows that. So I actually had a conversation with a rangatahi who saw that place as their auntie, really nice and warm and caring and learning and all that sort of thing. So there's a human or spiritual aspect of it. It really is an asset to the community. With mana whenua. So as it is a finance and performance committee, it is important that focusing on the post-implementation review really does shake out into the future to be part of the templating moving forward, including the OPEX, and be a pre-investment review, I guess. Kelvin, have you got anything to add? Just before I do, also councillors, questions on major projects, if there are any. We've focused a lot on the PIR. Major projects, there being no questions, do I have a mover for the report? Sam, seconder, Councillor Mugford. Those in favour say aye. Those against, there being none, so moved. Thank you very much, Jenny, for the report. Next on the agenda, tab 10, LT long-term plan update.
This is purely information, so unless someone's got questions, take it as read.
Councillors? Yes, Councillor Dean.
So am I too late to ask a question on the PIR, or has it gone?
We've moved it and it has gone, but certainly, mate, you go ahead, ask a question.
If the people are still there, my question was, I was really interested in what the social impact was, what it was going to perceive that it was going to be, what it is now, whether the PIR had any measures into that, and also in the future as Rolleston Fields grows. You know, we know that there's some of the social impacts of the library, some of the behaviours in Te Ara Aotearoa aren't what we would have perceived. And I'm just wondering whether or not the PIR actually picks up that sort of behaviour too as part of its overall plan.
Thanks, Phil. Kelvin?
I suppose we've covered off within the PIR and down the right-hand side of the summary of it around community good, which covers that. It's difficult to bring it into a conversation here what we thought. We have had some issues with young people around there, or a very, very small group of young people. While that's an impact, I think that's a social change as opposed to having that facility there causing it. And the good that the facility has brought from an engagement point of view of the community, a gathering place, a place that young people feel comfortable in, as Shane referred to as being the auntie. I think that well and truly outweighs the very minority of youth that have got a few issues that we're dealing with, and the staff there are dealing with incredibly professionally.
Thanks, Kevin. Actually, it was more a case of whether or not there was anything that was going to impact on OPEX.
I would just add to that, if I may, that from a community operational point of view, we're looking at how many, how well, and what's changed as a result. So that's the well-being impact. And part of the customer service, its customer experience survey is all framed around the ways to wellbeing, and it asks people whether they in fact feel their wellbeing has improved as a result of the particular activity or visit that they've made, and or whether or not they consider it's improved the wellbeing of others. And that feedback has been reported separately to council, and it's something that we do routinely across all of our facilities and the services that we operate from them.
Kia ora, Denise, thank you. Is that, you happy with that, Councillor Dean?
Look, I guess it's the case that as you talked about a post-implementation review going to pre, I mean, things like OPEX and the social impact, I mean, they have an impact on the OPEX. That was all. But thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, mate. Appreciate it. Back to tab 10, Councillors Long-Term Plan Update for information. Questions? There being none, do I have a mover for the report? Councillor Sophie McInnes and seconder Sam. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Those against, there being none, so moved. Tab 12, the workshop. What we've just
We've got the
11.
dog.
Apologies. Tab 11, amendment to the lease Rolleston Dog Training Park Club.
This is very much a minor variation of the lease, which is legally required. So the team are here should there be questions, but we'll assume that it's been read.
Councillors, questions? Elizabeth.
Hi, thank you for that. I really loved that you've put in the community's response to this. Actually, it was really insightful. In terms of a lot of what I noted was dog users were saying that when the group are using that portioned off area, they're actually locking the gates and preventing people from accessing the rest of it. Have you noted that to be true, or is that a perception people have got from the occasional dog show day where they might actually lock off the whole venue?
It certainly hasn't been reported to us, but it's something we can investigate, because the balance of the park, when they have training nights, is supposed to be open to the public.
Yeah.
So we can certainly investigate that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Reid. Sorry, Councillor Reid.
Thanks for the report. I actually really like seeing the part D that's been added to the views of those affected consultation about community outcomes and goals, and I assume that's going to go on all our reports from now on. With looking at social wellbeing, environmental wellbeing, and the other wellbeings, which is great to see. Now, I wasn't here when the dog park was first opened, but from what I've heard, it was actually the club that got that started. And just reading some of the comments, and there has been forever when it's come up on Facebook that they are going to do their events, basically going on about the club. And I feel sorry for the ones who are at the club to have so much backlash at times about the times that they want to use it. And I mean, we really need to reinforce in the community that the club are actually quite an important part of the dog park. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that Rolleston has grown around it, and there's so many more people there, and has been brought up, you know, maybe looking at other areas, dog areas. I mean, we're now going up to 30,000 people. When I came here in 2010, we were 8,000 people, and the dog park was about there. We didn't have a dog then, so I didn't take much notice, but considerable numbers, and we have a very high proportion of dog ownership in the district as well. So we need to keep some of those things in mind. I mean, sorry, it's only been a statement, but I do think that when this is a message we should be reinforcing as well in the community about the dog park. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Reid. Councillor McInnes.
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you very much for the work on this. yeah, it's strange how emotive the idea of having dog training becomes in comparison to various other things that council deals with. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, dog training is a valuable thing to be happening. So we got a dog about a year ago. We couldn't get into the puppy training soon enough for it to be worthwhile doing. So it's valuable when you've got this many dogs around the place to have skilled handlers as well as the dogs knowing how to respond, I guess. And it's weird as well because you don't see the same complaints against rugby fields or football fields. Oh no, they're using all the fields and I can't walk across them. They are there to be used for organised activities as well as just communally. But there was a mention in the report about some feedback that somebody had received about communications on fences. That was me. And I do think that's one thing that we haven't done well, and the dog club hasn't done well as well. Although in some cases, particularly for the dog club, it's probably a wee bit of defensiveness because you don't want to be the one putting the sign up or anything. But actually, if there's something clearly stated, the times, the days, what your alternatives are, yeah, that would probably, it won't appease everybody, but at least it would help answer some of the questions of when are they going to be out of here? Where else can I go? Yeah. Kia ora.
Thanks. Just a couple of questions from me. One, I wasn't quite sure why we were making this decision and why it wasn't delegated to staff. Like, is this something that always, because it's under the Reserves Act, something needs to be council? Is there a way that we can streamline this for the future? And second, from me, is around the club itself. I'm guessing it's a not-for-profit group that's providing a community service and that, you know, providing stuff to the community. It's not a business setting up. Keen to know just what that setup is.
Whilst it's not a statutory requirement to report it to or consult even on this matter, given the level of public interest, it was decided that it would be wise to do so in this instance, just given past experience.
And in relation to the delegation side of it, delegations are not delegated to, they should go to full council. For most of the decisions, it came to this committee because it wasn't a statutory requirement that we actually consult on it, but we believed it was good because of the interaction between public use and the use by the club to give a basis for the decision going forward.
Cool, thanks. And the other thing that's in the report, I suppose, is options for the future provision of dog spaces, and I think that's a really great thing for us to think about, a bigger space where we don't run into these issues, and also maybe what an alternate use is for the current space. May not be just an and, it could be an or to what we currently provide. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sam. Sharon, next on this.
I think Megan was before me.
Kia ora, Megan, please.
Kia ora. Yes, so interesting, minor change, yet a whole heap of public input and feedback. And it does show in the last 5 weeks that I've been here, you have strong demand for your facilities. And through the feedback, it was really good to hear your question, Sam, because that was my question. I wasn't sure if this was a for-profit business or a not-for-profit club. So that was really helpful. And potentially some members of the public don't know that. But mindful that although it's a minor change, it does mean that every weeknight will now be unavailable for users of the whole park. But my question is, through that feedback, there were several comments about other facilities that might be able to be used, Leaston or Prebbleton, and I wanted to know, are those other facilities used as much? And if dog parks are big demand, is there something in the pipeline for more of this from council?
Sure.
Sorry. The report highlights the PARS Open Spaces report that's currently gone out. It's in draft. And I've spoken with the strategic manager and the dog club, and the dog club and strategic manager are willing at looking at options for other sites.
Thank you. Sharon?
Just a general comment around delegations. It is on our plan to actually review the delegations and what sits where. So as things come up, we take the opportunity to have a look, but we'll be having a broader view of delegations within the organisation, hopefully within the next 6 months.
Thank you very much, Sharon.
I just wanted to clarify, Megan, that the balance of the park will still be open even when they undertake the training. It's only part of it, the fence part, that they will utilise. So the balance should remain open for the general public.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the report, councillors. We'll have a mover for the report. Councillor Lyle and seconder Councillor Elizabeth Munt. Those in favour say aye. Those against, there being none, moved. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move into public excluded. I have a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Lyle, Councillor Mugford. We'll just take a moment to zoom off, but please, can we leave the councillors